Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And happy New Year's Eve to you guys out there. Hope you all are having a good New Year's Eve. 2020 is almost upon us. It is 8:55 right now as I am doing this video. But hope you all have a good New Year's Eve. And this review is going to be on last night's Monday Night Raw, which was the December 30th edition. It was from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. And it was, of course, the last Monday Night Raw of 2019. We had the Lana and Bobby Lashley wedding, which, God help us when we all watched that. Well, no, Monday Night Raw last night, just as every week, shitty show. I have to say this was one of the worst Monday Night Raws of the year. But garbage show. The first hour, I thought it was decent because I missed the first 2 hours last night because I worked. So I was able to see the last hour after I got out of work, because I watched the last hour on my phone. Then I came back home, and I thought I was going to miss the Lana Bobby Lashley wedding, and boy was I wrong. That should not have been the main event. Oh yeah, so I watched what happened during the first 2 hours, because I had it recorded. So, but the first hour I thought was decent, and then the show just went right downhill, and it went into the shitter when Lana and Bobby Lashley, the wedding happened. But let's get on with the Monday Night Raw review. So Monday Night Raw opened up last night with Kevin Owens coming out. Kevin Owens ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up saying, we're going to cut right to business. He says, want to know why? And he shows us. And we see, video of last week during the holiday Monday Night Raw show, where Seth Rollins and AOP, they took out Kevin Owens and Rey Mysterio, and then they attacked Samoa Joe. So Owens went on to say about Seth Rollins and AOP beating him up for weeks. And then Kevin Owens ended up saying that he will keep calling them out and getting beat up, but sooner or later. He says he's taken one of those idiots down with him. So the fans were cheering for Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens ends up saying that he has a problem with their actions. And he looks up to the first name that comes to his mind. And that name is Rey Mysterio. So Kevin Owens talks about how it made him sick to watch what Seth Rollins and AOP did last week. So Kevin Owens ends up blaming the attack on Rey Mysterio losing the United States Championship, which was at Madison Square Garden. It was during the holiday show that they do every year at Madison Square Garden, where Andrade ended up defeating Rey Mysterio. So Andrade is the new United States champion. They end up showing footage from MSG during that holiday show. And Kevin Owens ends up saying that he has had enough. And out came Seth Rollins and AOP And Kevin Owens, was there. Looked like he couldn't wait to fight. Seth Rollins gets on the mic, ends up saying Kevin Owens is still failing to see the big picture. He ended up saying that this isn't something he chose. This is something that was forced upon him by people like Kevin Owens, who think they know best. So Seth Rollins ended up going on to say that this is his sacrifice for the greater good, to be a leader, a messiah, and to take the industry into the next decade. So Rollins ended up saying that Kevin Owens left him no choice but to impose his will. He says if Kevin Owens resists, AOP will enforce his will. So Kevin Owens ended up getting out of the ring, charged at AOP. AOP ended up beating Kevin Owens up, puts Kevin Owens back in the ring. Seth Rollins is still taunting Kevin Owens on the mic. And AOP then was still taking out Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens was trying to fight back to take down the AOP. And then Samoa Joe came out. Samoa Joe ended up getting a big pop from the crowd. And, last week's Raw, which was the Christmas show, was Samoa Joe's last time on commentary. But I really enjoyed, the little bit of time that Joe was on commentary. He made he made a good commentator. And hopefully, if, he retires sometime, hopefully in the near future, he could go back to doing commentary. Because I really enjoyed Joe on commentary. So Joe came out, like I said, got a big pop from the crowd. AOP then tried to stop Joe, and Joe ended up taking AOP down. Samoa Joe gets in the ring, ends up brawling with Seth. He then unloads and applies the Coquina Clutch to Seth. AOP ended up making the save. Kevin Owens ends up coming in with a chair, ends up delivering chair shots to AOP, to Akam and Razor. And Seth ends up stopping Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens ends up fighting Seth Rollins in the corner. Security comes down. The ring is filled up with security. Security then separates Seth Rollins, AOP, and Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. And Samoa Joe ends up breaking free and attacks Seth again. So Seth ends up retreating to the floor. Fans were chanting, "Let them fight." So security then had AOP and Seth Rollins held back at ringside on the floor. Kevin Owens ends up going to the top, and he delivers a senton from the top, onto the floor. Ends up taking out Seth Rollins, AOP, and the security. So Samoa Joe then joins in again on the attack. And then Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens were backstage. And they were talking about how they will keep bringing the fight. So Kayla Braxton then comes and informs them that security is on the way. Kayla Braxton then asked Samoa Joe why he got involved. Joe ends up saying that he doesn't have a choice to get involved, and that Seth Rollins forced him to get involved. So Joe went on to say that Seth Rollins made it to where Kevin Owens will never stand alone again. Kevin Owens ended up saying that he's known Joe for a long time, and known a lot of bad people, but no one as bad as Samoa Joe. And Kevin Owens ended up saying that he meant that in the nicest way. He says he didn't imagine that anyone would be by his side for this fight, but he's glad it's Joe. So Kevin Owens ended up assuming the security was coming to remove him and Joe from the arena. And security ends up showing up, ends up surrounding them. And Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe end up talking about fighting again next week. And they then issue a warning to the security guards. But that was what happened backstage. But that was a decent open to Monday Night Raw. Kevin Owens coming out. The brawl between Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, AOP, and Samoa Joe. And then we had the first match of the night. Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy. This was their rematch from TLC. And this was a great match. This was a really enjoyable match. Really enjoy seeing these two in the ring. This was better than their TLC match. And they just delivered. And it was back and forth between Aleister and Buddy Murphy. And in the end, Aleister Black ended up getting the win. Hit the Black Mass on Buddy Murphy. So Aleister Black ended up winning the match. And after the match, both guys got a standing ovation from the crowd. That's how great this match was. That's how good this match was. But all in all, good match. Really enjoyed it. Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy put on one hell of a match. Like I said, this was better than their TLC match. The match that they had at TLC. Good match. Then after that, we saw Seth Rollins, of course, backstage with AOP. AOP, Akam, and Razor, they were arguing in another language. Seth Rollins wanted to know what was going on. What's going on? And AOP have each side covered and said that no one will kick them. So Seth ends up laughing and says management has just asked them to leave and that no one is kicking them out. Seth ended up saying WWE is trying to close the year without their Messiah, but the show will be canceled before the next match and that they won't last. So security ends up showing up. Seth Rollins ends up saying that they aren't leaving voluntarily. Seth ends up telling AOP to clear the way, and they end up leaving. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we saw Erick Rowan. Erick Rowan was confronting Lana backstage. He ended up saying to Lana that he's upset about not receiving a wedding invite. He ended up saying that we don't care anyway, which I gave a clap to, because nobody gives a shit about this wedding. Did any of you guys give a shit about the Lana Bobby Lashley wedding last night? Wait until I get to talking about that. Wait till I fucking talk about that. And he says, we don't care anyway, referring to the pet that he has in the cage. I wish he would have said that about everybody in the crowd, everybody watching, at home. So Rowan ends up yelling at Lana, walks off, and Lana's just sitting there looking confused and like, what? Like that. What Erick Rowan had to say. Then we had a squash match. Erick Rowan versus Kip. Just squash match. Erick Rowan ends up delivering the Iron Claw. That was it. Moving on. So Lana was shown in a room getting ready for a wedding. She ends up talking to herself about how everyone loves her and, you know, she's like obsessing over her. Garbage. Garbage. So then we had Charlotte come out. Charlotte ends up getting on the mic, announces that she will be in the 30-woman Royal Rumble match, you know, at the Royal Rumble on January 26th. Like we did not know that she was going to be in the Rumble. We all knew Charlotte was going to be in the Rumble. No possible way WWE is not going to have Charlotte in the Women's Royal Rumble. So Charlotte ends up saying everyone knows she was going to be in the match. Of course we all knew. She's like, so why come out and just state the obvious? She ends up saying that she could talk about being a 10-time champion, main event in WrestleMania. She went on bragging about, saying that she's tired of bragging about being the queen of WWE. And that the fans are tired of hearing her say it. Of course we are. So Charlotte ends up saying that she wants to show us why she's the queen. Charlotte says she has her boots on, and her favorite robe on. So she ended up saying, who wants to come out and bow down to the queen? So it's kind of like an open challenge. Whoever wanted to fight Charlotte. So out came Natalya. So Natalya ended up answering the challenge. So then we had Charlotte versus Natalya. Very meh match. Didn't care for it. Absolutely slow. Now, did you all think that Natalya would win? So if you said Charlotte won this match, you are right. What move did she apply to on Natalya? If you said the figure 8, you are correct. So Charlotte ends up winning the match. Natalya ended up tapping out. Very meh match. So then we saw Charlie Caruso. She was backstage with Becky Lynch, interviewing Becky Lynch. Becky ended up getting a pop in the arena. Charlie Caruso ends up saying to Becky Lynch about how Asuka agreed to her challenge last week and that no date was set. Becky ends up confirming that her match with Asuka will take place at the Royal Rumble. So Charlie Caruso asks Becky how she got it done. Becky ends up telling Charlie Caruso, that her WWE contract is coming up. And she wouldn't even discuss a new contract until she gets the match. Becky ended up saying that she could have shut her mouth. And she got one of the biggest contracts ever. She ended up saying, but money and status aren't important. She ended up saying that if this is on top of the world, she doesn't want it. She says she became the face of the business, but now she needs to know that it was worth it. So Becky ends up saying that she doesn't know if she can beat Asuka, but she's going to wipe her record if it kills her. So Becky ended up walking off, and that was the little interview with Becky Lynch. So there you go. We're getting Becky Lynch versus Asuka at the Royal Rumble. So then we saw a promo for Liv Morgan, teasing for her makeover and return. Liv ended up going on to say that someone made her feel different, and then they took it away. She said the old Liv would have done something impulsive, but the new Liv is way more methodical. And she ended up saying that she strikes when she's ready, and she thinks she's ready. And it just said that to be continued as the promo ended. But Liv Morgan, oh my God! Wait until I get till later. Because she played a part in the Lana and Bobby Lashley wedding. So, right there, WWE fucked up with Liv Morgan, which I'll get to talking about. So, after that, the OC, Styles, Gallows, Anderson, came out. AJ Styles got on the mic. He ended up saying that if anyone still needs proof that Raw belongs to the OC, here's proof. So we see a video of when Gallows and Anderson beat the War Raiders, or if anybody wants to call them the Viking Raiders, in their match 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Raw. And we also saw how the OC beat Viking Raiders and Randy Orton last week in the six-man tag. So Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, they get on the mic. Gallows ends up calling the Viking Raiders, or the War Raiders, Goose. And then the Street Profits came out. Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, they spoke from the stage, and they say, yes, the OC did beat the champs. And yes, they did become the greatest tag team in the world. Yeah, if you remember Crown Jewel, Crown Jewel, OC, Gallows and Anderson became the greatest tag team in the world. And they said, what does that mean for the Street Profits as they defeated Gallows and Anderson? So the Street Profits came out, red cups in their hand. They head to the ring. Styles ended up saying that they were just lucky with their win. Styles said that the best thing for them to do is stick to their little cute sticks backstage, or else they might get hurt. So Angelo Dawkins says he isn't afraid of a group that's named after a teen soap opera, because of course the OC was a teen soap opera. It was on Fox in the early 2000s. It had I never watched that show, but I know it has Ben McKenzie in it before. He was on way before he was on Gotham. But Gallows ends up cutting the Street Profits off, tells them to get into the ring so that they can get their asses kicked. So Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins get hyped up. They make it known that they want the smoke. So Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins enter the ring, and the match end up starting. Which, the Street Profits versus the OC, Gallows and Anderson, very meh match. Another very meh match that we saw. The Street Profits end up getting the win. Montez Ford went to the top, ended up hitting a frog splash to Carl Anderson. So there you go. The Street Profits end up winning the match. Very meh match. So then, when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, the Street Profits were backstage, and they're doing some, comedy, some cringy comedy back and forth. They end up plugging the Lana and Bobby Lashley wedding, which nobody gave a shit about. And they end up making it known that they want the smoke with the Viking Raiders or the War Raiders. And so pretty much basically that was that, but very cringe, terrible. So then we had Drew McIntyre versus Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Can you say a 2-on-1 squash match? Because that's what this basically was. So before the match got underway, Drew McIntyre ended up coming out. He was on the mic. He ends up walking to the ring. McIntyre ends up calling himself the Sexy Scotsman. So McIntyre ends up issuing a poll to the Hartford crowd. Says that he hopes everyone got real pretty because they're about to be on TV. He ends up saying, "Who thinks Drew should be worried tonight?" with a show of hands. Drew McIntyre did not get that much of a reaction. So he wanted to say, who thinks the two guys he brutalized and slaughtered last week should be extremely worried tonight? So it got, a little bit of a reaction. So Drew says it's anonymous and the people have spoken. And he says, just like everyone who gets in the ring with him, they will be put down. And so Curt Hawkins and Zack Ryder then attacks Drew McIntyre, which that led to pretty much nothing because Drew McIntyre ends up destroying Ryder and Hawkins. McIntyre ended up hitting Curt Hawkins with the Claymore. Zack Ryder ended up coming in, try to get something on Drew McIntyre. McIntyre ended up laying out Zack Ryder with the Future Shock DDT. And McIntyre ended up pinning both Ryder and Hawkins because Ryder and Hawkins were both on each other. So McIntyre ended up holding them both down. So there you go. Drew McIntyre ends up winning. Squash match. 2-on-1 squash match. Instead of calling it a handicap match. It's not even a handicap match. Why call a handicap match if it's not long and it's Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins? Squash. Squash match. So then it was announced for next week's Monday Night Raw, which is of course, the first Raw of the new year. So next week they'll be in Oklahoma City, and they announced that Brock Lesnar is returning to Monday Night Raw next week, the WWE champion. Which, from what I heard, Brock Lesnar is not going to put the WWE Championship on the line at the Royal Rumble. That's from what I heard from reports. So I'm like, great. The WWE title is not going to be on the line at the Royal Rumble. Great. Ever since Kofi lost the title and Brock Lesnar won the title from Kofi, this WWE Championship, the WWE title, has been forgotten and not talked about. So this is one of WWE's popular titles, and it's not even featured or even mentioned. That's how much they care about this title. By no mention, not even mention, Brock Lesnar in the title. It's like, oh, Brock Lesnar's off TV. Oh, he's forgotten. The WWE title is forgotten. So then we also got an announcement that Rey Mysterio will get his rematch against Andrade Cien Almas next week for the United States Championship. It will be on the line. So that's something to look forward to. Even though we've seen Rey Mysterio and Andrade go at it, a few times earlier in this year, which they put on really good matches, very entertaining. This was when both Mysterio and Andrade, was on SmackDown. And then it was also announced that the Raw Tag Team Championship will be on the line. It's going to be a triple threat. It's going to be the Viking Raiders versus the Street Profits and the OC. So all that is announced for next week's Monday Night Raw from Oklahoma City. So then, after those were announced, we had Randy Orton coming out. And over the, this house show that they had, fans clickbaited it. Fans were believing that Randy Orton was hurt during, after this house show. But Randy Orton came out. He was using crutches. One of the crew members was helping Randy Orton to get onto the ring apron. Vic Joseph goes on to mention how Randy Orton was injured at the house show, which was in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It was held this past Sunday. So the crew member ended up helping Orton into the ring. Fans were chanting Randy Orton's name as Randy Orton ended up getting on the mic. So Randy Orton ended up talking about injuries happening in this business. He ended up saying that it kills him that he needed help to get into the ring tonight in front of the fans. Randy Orton then pauses as the fans chanted his name. Orton then went on to mention Cien champions relinquished their titles due to injuries. And he says one man he does respect is WWE Hall of Famer Edge, which Edge had to relinquish his entire career due to an injury. Which, if this is not mentioning that, with Randy Orton not mentioning Edge, there's all this talk that Edge is going to be coming back to WWE. There's fans thinking that he might show up in the Royal Rumble match. But Edge shot those rumors of him signing down. But that's what I heard. I mean, a lot of people they were all over this Edge news, saying that he's coming back in the Royal Rumble. Oh, he might have a match at WrestleMania. Maybe you might see, if Edge comes back, you might see him versus Randy Orton. So, but who knows? Some of these articles and reports are sometimes, fake, or doesn't live up to what these so-called dirt sheets are reporting. But Orton wanted to say that no one wants to see that happen. Orton ended up saying that he landed bad on his knee and it screwed him up on Sunday. Says he heard it pop. Says he didn't know how bad it was until he got the MRI results. He wanted to say that he's going to be out of the ring for a very long time, and there's a good chance that he won't be able to come back. Fans weren't happy about this news, and fans were chanting no. And Orton says no matter what happens, he's going to make sure somebody takes the RKO at WrestleMania. He wants to say that is his promise. Then AJ Styles came out. AJ Styles ended up coming out alone on the stage. And I forgot to mention in the OC versus the Street Profits match, AJ Styles was thrown out of ringside, so it was just the Street Profits and Gallows and Anderson there. So referee ended up throwing out AJ Styles in that match. So AJ Styles came out. Like I said, he didn't come out with Gallows or Anderson. He was calling for a timeout. Fans were booing. Styles wanted to say that he doesn't like the idea of not getting to fight Randy Orton again until WrestleMania. So Styles was in the ring. He was staring at Randy Orton. Fans chanted RKO. Styles ended up taunting Randy Orton. AJ Styles went on and offered to put his hands behind his back, and he ended up closing his eyes. So Randy Orton, didn't take a shot. Styles says that Orton must be really hurt. Styles says he can be patient, and we'll see Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And that's where he will retire Randy Orton with the calf crusher. So Styles went on to leave. He ends up kicking one of Randy Orton's crutches. Randy Orton also leaned on one of the ropes for support. Fans were chanting, AJ sucks. Orton then stops Styles and says the biggest difference between them is that Styles is patient and Randy Orton is not. Orton then suddenly hits the RKO on AJ Styles. Fans cheered big, and it was revealed that Randy Orton is not injured. So Orton ends up going to the corner, and he does his signature pose. Styles trying to recover. And that was how basically the segment ended. But really good segment between Styles and Orton. Of course, Styles and Orton, I guess they're going to be fighting at WrestleMania now. There's going to be a good match to see come WrestleMania. And all this was done just for people like Randy Orton getting injured. This was all done for people to get talking and for people to believe the dirt sheets, saying that, oh, Randy Orton's injured. he's going to be out. Wasn't that? This was all just, a fake. This was all just a setup, just for Orton to RKO Styles. That's what this all was. It was just to get people talking. But good segment from Randy Orton and Styles. Then we saw footage of Andrade Cien Almas win the United States Championship from Randy Orton at the Madison Square Garden house show, which took place last Thursday. And Rey Mysterio, of course, will get his rematch next Monday on Monday Night Raw, of course. And we see footage of Rey Mysterio. This was done at Madison Square Garden, I guess, after the match. Rey ended up saying that he's counting on getting his rematch from Andrade. Says he's not done with Seth Rollins and AOP. Rey ended up saying that he promises that when this is all over, he will be the one standing tall. And he says, Booyaka, 619. So there you go. So we're going to get the rematch next week. Rey Mysterio versus Andrade. Then we had Andrade Cien Almas versus this jobber. We didn't get the name of this jobber. But in the match, Andrade looked like he was going to finish this guy with a double underhook DDT. Zelina Vega was then barking orders at Andrade. Andrade ends up getting out of the ring, ends up pulling up the mat, exposing the concrete. And Andrade ends up hitting shots to this jobber. And out came Ricochet. Ricochet came out to make the save before Andrade ended up using the concrete to hit this jobber, to hit this jobber guy, down on the concrete. Ricochet ends up taking the mic, says that he's not going to go down like that tonight. It's not going to go down like that. Ricochet says Andrade did this to Humberto Carrillo and also Rey Mysterio. Says, but if Andrade wants a fight, fight him now. Fight Ricochet now. So Ricochet, why don't you fight me now? Ricochet then ends up dropping the mic and gets in the ring. And Raw went to commercial. And when Monday Night Raw came back, we saw Andrade Cien Almas versus Ricochet. Which the match itself wasn't that bad of a match. It was a decent match between them. And you had a point where they were on the outside, and Andrade ended up delivering a body drop to Ricochet on the concrete. Ricochet went back first onto the concrete. And at the end of the match, Ricochet ended up going to the top. Referee was dealing with Andrade. Zelina Vega ends up coming up on the ring apron, shoves Ricochet off the top, and Andrade ended up taking control. Andrade then hit the hammerlock DDT on Ricochet, and there you go. Andrade ended up winning the match. Thanks once again to Zelina Vega. So, are we back to this now? Are we back to having Zelina Vega end up helping Andrade win matches? Let the guy win matches on his own. I don't understand why they got to have Zelina Vega make Andrade win. Just getting help from Zelina. Let the guy win on his own. Yeah, I'm happy that he's the United States champion. I think they might do something decent with Andrade, but this is WWE we're talking about here. Hopefully, with him as the United States champion, maybe they'll have plans for him, down the line. But like I said, this is WWE we're talking about here. Then we had Sarah Schreiber. She was in the back with Andrade and Zelina Vega. And Zelina is, smiles after the win. And they said they are both confident about this United States Championship reign. Said they aren't worried about Rey Mysterio taking the title back when he gets his rematch next week. So, there you go. That was that. And folks, guys, here we get to the main event. The Lana and Bobby Lashley shit wedding. Oh my God! Just when I thought, when I tuned in to that last hour of Monday Night Raw, I was not expecting this to be the main event. This should have been done in the second hour. Oh my God! This whole segment, this whole wedding, was so fucking bad. It was hilarious. This was so bad, it was funny. Oh my God. And I really don't want to talk about this. I really don't want to go into all this because this shit fucking sucked. And you know what? When I was watching this live, USA Network had the balls to keep this wedding going, until 10 after 11. Yes, I shit you not. 10 after 11 was when the show went off the air. All that 10 minutes devoted to garbage. So let's get into this shit Lana and Bobby Lashley wedding. God, it's just so fucking terrible. So we had the ring decked out in wedding, with flowers, and there was a big cake in there. Minister is in there. Minister introduces Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley ended up coming out first. And it looked like Bobby Lashley had too much makeup on him. And it looked like somebody might have, etched in or drawn, in his eyebrows. Then we see a bunch of empty seats on the stage. Guests didn't want to come. Because who would want to come to this wedding? Who would want to? So then we hear Vic Joseph on commentary say, Lana and Bobby Lashley have no friends, and no one wanted to accept the invitations. Oh, that explains it, because nobody gives a shit. So Lashley was wearing a tuxedo, sleeves were cut off. He was wearing no shirt on underneath it. Then the minister introduces Lana. Lana ends up coming out in her wedding dress, had flowers in her hand. So Raw went to commercial. Then when Raw came back from the commercial, the officiant ends up beginning the speech. Fans were booing, because why not? They all hate what they're seeing here. I feel bad. I feel bad for the fans who had to sit through this whole thing. everybody who attended this event in Hartford, I feel bad for all of you that had to sit through this fucking shitty diarrhea-inducing garbage. So the officiant ends up speaking for everyone when he says they hope Lana and Lashley have a love that makes them better versions of themselves. Oh, God. And he went on and mentions kids for the happy couple. Lana ends up interrupting and says she didn't put that in the script. And that she doesn't want a little monster coming out of her, giving her stretch marks and everything else. Making her like all these wannabes. This is so fucking terrible. And she tells the guy to read the script she gave him. He asks Bobby Lashley if he's sure he wants to continue. Fans were chanting Rusev Day. And Lana ends up getting pissed off saying that this isn't about Rusev Day. And right then from there, my ears started bleeding. Because Lana is fucking terrible on the mic. And she gets ready to get to the vows. And the crowd won't stop chanting for Rusev. Lana ended up saying that this is the luckiest day of Bobby Lashley's life because he's marrying the greatest WWE superstar in history. She went on about how great she is and takes some shot, and she takes, shots at the fans. And she ends up saying that Bobby Lashley's whole life has led to this. And this is what he's worked hard for. This is what his manhood is for. She says she just wants to jump on top of, him and make love right now. So she did. They kiss. Oh my God. And the officiant thanks Lashley for his restraint. And the officiant says to Bobby Lashley that he could begin when he wants to. Lana is not, shutting up. And these vows were fucking botched. Bobby Lashley ended up botching his vow, which was hilarious. So Lana ended up saying that she spent a lot of time on the vows that, Bobby Lashley is about to read to her. Of course, fans were giving the what treatment to Bobby Lashley. Lana wasn't happy about that. And what was really funny, there was one fan in the crowd while this was going on, and he ended up yawning. When I saw that fan yawn, I fucking laughed because because yawning at this segment, this whole wedding deserves a fucking yawn. So Lana kept spelling, her name out. And Lashley ends up thanking Lana for allowing him to marry her. And the officiant is ready to get to the ring. Now, the rings. So Bobby Lashley receives one of the rings from the officiant. Rusev Day chants were picking back up. Lashley ends up repeating after the officiant. And Lana's like, oh, hurry it up. And, the officiant ends up giving the other ring to Lana. She ends up interrupting him before he can ask, to repeat after him. Lana ends up saying that Bobby Lashley has always given her everything. Because it's all about her. The officiant ended up saying that this is the part that he dreads. The officiant says if there's anyone who believes these two should not get married, speak now or forever hold your peace. So then a man ends up walking out. Wearing a suit, says he objects. He ends up saying that this wedding is a sham and should not continue. So the officiant was like, "Oh, who are you?" This guy ends up saying that he is Lana's first husband. This guy ended up saying that he and Lana got married the day she turned 18. He then wanted to say that Lana left him for that son of a bitch, Rousseff. And Lana ends up telling the guy to get out of here. And that he's still in love with her. This guy ends up calling Lashley a son of a bitch also. And he tells Lashley that Lana will do the same thing to him when something bigger and better comes along. Because that's what she does. So then Lashley grabs this guy, drives him into the mat. The officiant ends up going back, goes back to saying that if anyone else wants to speak out. And the guy then goes on to pronounce them man and wife. And then out came a woman who is also objecting. Bobby Lashley is looking worried. This woman tries to chant no. This woman ends up saying that she's Bobby's first wife and that they met while Bobby Lashley was in the military. Lana then slaps this woman off the apron. The officiant ends up asking one more time if anyone wants to speak up. And then, oh my God. WWE fucked up right here. Liv Morgan comes out. This is where WWE fucks up Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan comes out. She objects and says this can't go on. She ends up saying that the love of her life is right there. Liv Morgan ends up saying that she would not have made it through this year if it weren't for their love. She says she came to WWE a lost soul and a wild teen who came to the company. She says she never knew she could be herself until they met and fell in love with each other. And Liv Morgan was like, "Oh, how could you do this to me?" So Lana and Bobby Lashley look on. And, Lashley ends up saying that he never touched this woman in his entire life. And he's not sure what she's talking about. Liv Morgan ends up saying no. She's not talking about Bobby Lashley. She's talking about Lana. Oh my God. This was fucking terrible. Absolutely fucking garbage. It's sad. This is sad how WWE is involving Liv Morgan in this. Yeah, it's the return for Liv Morgan that we all wanted to see. Fans, we were expecting, Liv Morgan do something, be Sister Abigail with Bray Wyatt, or do something with Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse. But, or we were expecting the Liv Morgan with the Emelina thing, with the promos that we've been getting. And this is how you do Liv Morgan here? Pathetic. Absolutely fucking pathetic. So Liv ended up asking Lana why is she doing this? And that she doesn't love Bobby Lashley. So fans were chanting Liv. Lana ends up crying. Liv Morgan's also crying. Lana ends up slapping Liv Morgan in the face and shoves Liv Morgan. They start brawling. Lana and Liv Morgan roll around the ring, and referees end up pulling them apart. Officials come out from the back. Lana ends up yelling at the officiant to continue. This went on for so fucking long. So, man is about to pronounce them man and wife. And then we see the top of the cake is thrown off. And I'm like, oh, Rusev is in there. When I saw that big cake in the ring, I'm like, 100% Rusev is in there, because typical WWE, whenever in the past when a superstar was having a wedding angle, you know at one point that the wedding is going to be destroyed. It's typical WWE one-on-one. So Rusev ends up coming out of the cake. Rusev attacks Bobby Lashley, beating him around the ring. Lana is still crying. Fans were chanting for Rusev. He drops Bobby Lashley with a Machka kick. Liv ends up running back in, ends up taking Lana down. And Rusev ends up putting Bobby Lashley down. That was how Monday Night Raw ended. Fucking garbage. This was so fucking terrible. This was fucking hilarious because it was so shitty. This was diarrhea-inducing garbage. And like I said, I feel bad for the fans sitting in that crowd, those Hartford fans sitting in that crowd, inducing this fucking shit. Fucking... I really don't want to talk about this no more. I really don't want to talk about this stupid Bobby Lashley Lana wedding bullshit. And this got overrun for what reason? This did not need an overrun. This show did not need to go off the air at 10 after 11. Oh. I'm done talking about this. But that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Garbage ass show this was to end the last Monday Night Raw of this year. And WWE as an overall in 2019, this was one of the worst fucking years in WWE for its creative. And going into 2020, I have no hope for change in this company. I have zero hope that WWE is going to change in the next year, going into 2020. No hope. It's like every year WWE is trying to top themselves. Oh, I thought last year, 2018, was bad. WWE ended up topping that. 2019. Another shitty year for them this year. Creative sucks. What's going to make you all think that 2020 there's going to be change in the company? There's not going to be no change. But yeah, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the new year. And next video will be the AEW Dynamite review tomorrow night. Might get a chance to go see Star Wars tomorrow. So after the AEW Dynamite review, will be possibly, if I see Star Wars, it'll be a Star Wars movie review. So until then, I will see you all later.